Hey, listeners, if you notice a difference in audio quality this week, we had some recording location issues, but it should still be a great episode, so please bear with us. In the village of Midsomer, Florida, an amateur artist is murdered and Barnaby is kicked off the case. Can he figure out a way to solve the murder, or will he stay locked out? Get it? Because of a strong room?
Ha 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 ha.
You're no fun. We are talking episodes that go way too long.
The history of bank robberies.
And is Troy ready for a promotion in this episode of
Welcome to Midsomer.
Hello and welcome to Midsomer, the podcast where we dissect all the mysteries, the murders, and the many weird things about the long-running hit TV show Midsomer Murders. I'm your host, Eric Buscher, and with me as always is my co-host, Eileen Becker. Hey, Eileen.
Hey, Eric. We're talking about Painted in Blood, the third episode of the sixth series. It originally aired January 17th, 2003. It was directed by Sarah Hellings and written by Andrew Payne. Let's get our canvases ready.
Spoiler warning, we will be discussing the events of this episode, including the identity of the murderer. So if you haven't watched it yet and don't want to know who done it, pause this and go watch it. We will still be here when you get back.
So naturally, I went to the woman's aid. What did she do? Hurled me to the ground, called me all the names under the sun, and ran me over. She ran you over? Well, she came very close.
We open in the hills above Midsomer, Florida, as Linda Terrell watches the village through binoculars. Tony Carter walks out of the woods and signals her, and then she photographs him for a new passport. She hands him a receipt for something held in a bank's strong room, and then they smooch. After he leaves, she puts everything inside a leather bag, but two guys on a motorbike drive up and steal the bag, hitting her in the process. The assault is witnessed by local gentleman Godfrey Teal, who tries to help her, but she pushes him to the ground and almost runs over him as she drives off. It's not a great thank you, Linda. Later that morning, Joyce Barnaby attends her first meeting of the Midsomer Watercolor Society meeting in the Florey Square. It's an amateur group painting pictures that will then be auctioned off for charity. Head of the society, Barrett Philby, seems to enjoy hitting on all the women in the group. The members spread out, with Ann Carter wanting to paint her own house, which she shares with her husband, Tony, Alan Pinkney, seemingly unable to understand how pencils work, and Tessa Hawksley telling Joyce about her husband's drinking and sex problems. Joyce finds a nice spot, but then local villager Ruth Fairfax stomps up and tells her to move, as this is her spot. Teal goes to police headquarters to report the robbery, the latest in a string of bag snatchings that Barnaby is making Troy investigate. Unfortunately, Linda has not reported the robbery, so there isn't much they can do. Meanwhile, Tony tells Linda to report it so they can get that paperwork back. They need that paperwork, Eileen. They need it.
They need it.
When the rest of the society breaks for lunch, Joyce sticks around and discovers Ruth's dead body in the bushes. The police cordon off part of the square as Barnaby and Troy investigate. Bullard tells them that Ruth was stabbed in the back and he found a nylon number 9 brush under her body. Fairfax apparently moved to the village about 6 months ago and kept to herself, just painting in the square every single day. Anne wants to know what is going on with Tony, who doesn't want to talk inside because he believes the house is bugged by the police. Turns out Tony and Anne are in witness protection and have lived in the village for about 4 years now. Anne suspects something is up and warns him to not run out on her. The detectives go talk to Mrs. Metcalf, who rented Ruth a room. She said Ruth got into it with local handyman Mike Weatherby, claiming he was going through her things while working on a leak in her room. In her belongings, Troy finds theatrical makeup, and Bullard brings Barnaby to the coroner's table as he pulls a wig off Ruth's head. Ruth was actually a young woman in a fat suit and makeup. So who is this dead lady? Meanwhile, Troy finds the murder weapon, a carpenter's chisel covered in blood. But before they can continue investigating, the body is removed and Ruth's apartment is completely empty. The case is being taken over by D.I. Mark Gudgeon of the National Intelligence Squad, using Joyce finding the body as a reason for Barnaby to be recused. His underling detectives, Nolan and Backley, start interrogating people, and Troy is kept on the case to assist them. Well, this leaves Barnaby having to do nothing but investigate the bag snatchings. That is when Linda shows up to report her stolen bag. She claims to have been very, very afraid, and that's why it took her a whole day to report it. She tells him about the strong room receipt, and that's all she wants back. Barnaby clearly finds some holes in her story. That night, Joyce tells Tom about the NIS detectives and how they asked about Weatherby, but she says she can give him an alibi. She saw him working and put him in one of her drawings, even noting the exact time. He then talks to Troy, who is yet to meet Gudgeon. Barnaby stops into Ruth's room and looks under the bathroom sink where the leak was. In a hidden panel, he finds medicine prescribed to one Angela Browning. Tony meets with Linda and is not pleased when she tells him that she personally talked to Barnaby because Barnaby is too smart and is really not pleased they don't have the bag back yet. They need that receipt for a particular reason. He also suspects the murder is about him. While they are talking, they see Barnaby walking up and finding an empty Polaroid film box. Tony starts sneaking up on him with a heavy tree branch. Tourist info. This is our one and only visit to Midsomer, Florida, a lovely hamlet in the county that is the haven of tranquility, with no grisly murder. Well, one grisly murder. It is the home to a big square, perfect for aspiring artists. It will soon be the home to a fancy wine bar, located in the former town bank. Ask to see the wine cellar, but make sure you don't get locked in.
If Midsomer, Florida looks familiar, it's because the village has been used in other episodes. The Lee, a village in Buckinghamshire, was used as Badger's Drift in the opening shots of the killings at Badger's Drift, as well as in Season 2's Death's Shadow. It was Upper Marchwood in Season 3's Death of a Stranger. The Shire's Bank was previously the National Westminster Bank in Great Missenden. The building had just been vacated, but rather than becoming a wine bar, the building became the Roald Dahl Museum and Story Center. Dahl, best known for such great literary works for children as Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach, and the BFG, lived in Great Missenden for 36 years until his death in 1990. Cherie Blair, the wife of former Prime Minister Tony Blair, officially opened the museum in 2005.
Roald Dahl, best known for having some colorful thoughts about other races.
Yeah, but he did write some great books.
Strange kill. Well, we only had one kill this week, and it wasn't that strange. But, our victim was in an old lady costume. Now,
which is, I found that weird because it's like, wouldn't you just hire an older woman on their staff rather than making somebody dress up every day for 6 months?
Wouldn't anyone notice that this lady's wearing makeup, old age makeup? Like, if you're in the theater and you see that makeup is pretty heavy, so it's picked up by the lights.
Yeah. Stage makeup is meant for stage lighting, not for sitting in a village, under normal lighting conditions.
Well, maybe the strange aspect of the kill this week is that this is a rare one murder episode.
I know. Very rare.
Which I don't know how Barnaby's going to be able to solve it, because he usually requires at least 2 to 3 to get the juices pumping.
Yep.
So I thought this episode was long. On the Acorn app, which I watched it on, it clocked in at an hour and 43 minutes.
I think for me, it was like it felt standard length.
To me, it just was like, there was just, for the amount that actually, we just kept going back to Tony and Linda in the woods. We didn't, it was a lot of stalling to get to a very active final half hour. But up until then, I could see where, we've talked in the past how we wanted a little more in episodes. This is one where I thought we could use a little less.
Okay.
I don't think, we didn't, and we didn't even get enough of some stuff, which we'll talk about later, but it just, to me, I was like, can we get on with this, please? Yes. Another shot of them all painting. Great. Let's keep going.
Yeah. I think we're going to have some disagreements on this one, which is always fun.
Yeah. So then we had the main center, starting off with this episode, you thought it was going to be more about the Midsomer Watercolor Society. And boy, their art is not good.
These are amateurs. Very much amateurs.
I know. And you saw when they get into Ruth's room, all of her various paintings and whatnot hung up, which again, it's weird that she would hang up this stuff and not just immediately toss it.
Well, I think she was looking at patterns is why she was hanging it up.
Maybe. But it also, none of her art was consistent.
Yeah.
I did love that Troy's comment was like, maybe the murderer was an art lover.
Yeah.
Would you buy any of this stuff for even a charity auction?
Uh, uh, no. And that we were pretty expecting some pretty high end, some pretty high prices on that. My mom was a painter and actually a very good painter, and she would donate things and to charities
Yeah.
and auctions and stuff, and or she would sell them at like fests and stuff, and she would not get she never charged a whole lot for her stuff. So
I mean, I get that it was for I wonder what charity it was, and did the charity have any say in this?
yeah.
But so I looking on the Midsomer wiki, someone who added a bunch of stuff pointed out some rather interesting inconsistencies.
hmm
For example, this is again from the Midsomer wiki. Using an easel to paint watercolors is unusual since watercolor painting is done on a flat surface, so the water doesn't drip down the page.
Yeah.
And then in parentheses, they wrote, I know this as I am a watercolor artist.
Yeah, that is true. My mom she didn't do too many watercolors, but yeah, you did it on a flat surface, yeah.
And they were all using easels, so no wonder their paintings were terrible. But you would think that Barrett would have said, hey,
yeah.
Flat.
Yeah.
And this person also pointed out that there's a discussion about the pencils that they're using.
hmm
A 2B pencil would be a bit dark for a pencil sketch prior to painting a watercolor. But they should have been using a 2H pencil, and I think that's a little nitpicky.
Well, probably, but yeah. You do very little sketch work with a watercolor. You just do some outlines because watercolors are so transparent that even light pencil will show up. Yeah.
I also kind of noticed, I'm pretty sure at one point in the episode, a woman was clearly using an oil base brush, and she was swiping it at the canvas like it was an oil paint. Like it's not like how you would do watercolor. It was just
Yeah.
like swipe, swipe, swipe. Would you take a passport photo with a regular old Polaroid?
Well, the thing is, at least in the U.S., you can get a passport photo at like a drugstore. They don't submit them for you. They take the picture and they give them to you, and you can do whatever you want with them, or go to one of those little photo booths at the.
Well, yeah, but apparently, like for most passports, you can't use regular Polaroids. They do make specific passport-size Polaroid cameras that take the narrow shots, and you can use those apparently in some places. You can't use a regular old floppy Polaroid
No, yeah.
that also shot on a white screen in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, the lighting would be off because it's always, and that would have been a big tell for anybody looking at that passport.
Yeah, it was very.
Yeah.
It was just. I get it, like we don't have a lot of options. Like Anne's always around. We're gonna have to do this in the woods, but like could have gotten a hotel room somewhere,
Or just go to your local, place that takes passport photos. Lots of them around.
The person on the Wikipedia also reported that the lens covers on the binoculars were on in the opening scene, but you took a quicker look at that.
Yeah, I did. And the thing is, because I use binoculars quite a bit when I'm out looking at birds and stuff. I
Snooping.
think
When you're snooping on your neighbors, right?
Yeah. No, I use my telephoto lens on my camera for that.
Okay, good.
Like a
Proper
any
etiquette.
good like any good rear window fan would do. But I think but it looked to me like the lenses had been blacked out so that they weren't getting any kind of a reflection on them. So that I could see where it looked like they were, but when I looked closer and paused it and everything, it wasn't covered. It was still indented like where the lens would be, but it was just blacked out.
That makes sense because looking at how they were shooting it, they probably couldn't figure out the angle they wanted without showing the camera in the lens.
Yeah.
But I will say for camera work, that crane shot they did at the crime scene after when the police are kind of cordoning off the crime scene, and is a wonderful crane shot.
Yeah.
kind of encompassed everything in the green that I thought was very, very well done.
Even when they're looking through the binoculars and getting her POV of that, and you're seeing all the different elements of the village. You're getting the story and all the important elements right there at the very beginning. Some really wonderful setup there.
Since the second half of this episode is going to center around a bank robbery, Eileen did put on her true crime research hat on, and she's given us the history of the bank robbery.
Yeah, it's really hard to find a lot of information on the history of it, but we're going to start with a little bit of history of banking and then go into bank robberies.
Okay, so this is going to be a very boring history of banking, followed by a really fun true crime history of bank robberies.
Around 2000 BCE, the first prototype banks arose in Assyria, India, and Sumer, loaning grain to farmers and traders. Items like cowrie shells or beads were among the earliest mediums of exchange around the world, while in the Bronze Age or earlier, metal coins were developed in many parts of the world, including Greece, Rome, and China. Record keeping became important as commodities were traded, and many of the earliest written records are mundane economic transactions. Counting and numbers, as well as alphabets and other written languages, were developed. Cities grew, and temples became the sites of trade and commerce. As wealth developed in Babylonia around 2000 BCE, palaces and temples charged fees for depositing gold. The 18th century BCE Code of Hammurabi set forth terms for the repayment of loans, as well as establishing that a banker was liable for the replacement of deposits stolen while in their possession. So people were evidently stealing from these proto-banks for there to be a law about it. Temple granaries in ancient Egypt formed a sophisticated banking system, while strong boxes in temples such as the Parthenon stored gold, coins, and other objects of wealth. In ancient Rome, coins were minted in temples, while storage of public deposits eventually were held in private depositories. Banking houses would set up stalls and enclosed courtyards on a long bench called a banku, from which we get the word bank. The Romans eventually formalized and regulated banking and other financial practices. After the rise of Christianity, usury, or charging interest on loans, was seen as immoral and was often prohibited. With the decline of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century, banking may have ended in Europe until the 12th century. This is where the roots of modern banking first began, especially in Italy and France. Jews fleeing Spanish persecution during the Reconquista were attracted to the rich cities of the Lombards in Italy, bringing with them ancient traditions that had developed along the Silk Road. Around the same time, large sums of money were needed to finance the Crusades, and the Templar and Hospitaller Knights acted as bankers to England's King Henry II. The Templars, with a special dispensation from Pope Innocent II, grew rich as they collected tithes and held rich lands. Using local currencies, they moved money around Europe using demand notes that they issued, a more secure way of moving money without the usual risk of robbery while traveling. At medieval trade fairs, money changers issued documents redeemable at other fairs in exchange for hard currency. These developed into bills of exchange. In Florence, families became rich and powerful by setting up banks. One of the most famous is the Medici family, whose bank was established in 1397. Banking continued to develop during the Middle Ages and the Renaissance throughout Europe as the prohibition against usury was cast aside. The issuance of banknotes emerged in the 17th century, as did fractional reserve banking, which is the practice of banks only keeping a part of their deposits as liquid assets while loaning out the rest to borrowers. As banks became more prominent, they became more of a target for theft, especially in America. According to the Saturday Evening Post, in 1798, $162,821 were stolen from the Bank of Pennsylvania at Carpenter's Hall. As the thief may have had a key and there were no signs of force, this is considered a burglary rather than a robbery. Similarly, a burglary occurred in 1831 when two men used forged keys to enter the City Bank of New York. They emptied the bank vault of more than $245,000 in bank money. In 1828, 5 men tunneled through a sewage drain in Sydney and stole around £14,000 from the Bank of Australia. The first armed robbery in U.S. history may have occurred in 1863, when Postmaster Edward Green entered the First National Bank in Malden, Massachusetts, and shot the 17-year-old bookkeeper to death before stealing $5,000. Bank robbery soon became associated with the American frontier as part of the myth of the Wild West, mainly due to high-profile robberies such as the 1866 robbery of the Clay County Savings Association in Liberty, Missouri by members of the James Younger Gang, led by Jesse James and his brother Frank. While not as common as many believed, the myth of Wild West bank robberies endures to this day. The first bank robbery using a motor vehicle was carried out by the Bonneau Gang, a French anarchist group, in Paris in 1911. During the Great Depression, the number of bank robberies significantly increased in the U.S., with many famous gangs entering the public consciousness. The Dillinger Gang, the Barrow Gang, and the Barker Karpus Gang are just a few that reached notoriety in the U.S. Other famous bank robbers include Pretty Boy Floyd, Babyface Nelson, and Willie Sutton in the U.S., and Ned Kelly in Australia. A 1973 bank robbery in Sweden led to what's been called Stockholm Syndrome, as 4 hostages refused to testify against their captors after forming an emotional bond with them. In the UK, there have been some high-profile bank heists, including the Barclays Bank robbery in 1970, where £237,000 were stolen, the 1987 Knightsbridge security deposit robbery, where £40 million were stolen from safety deposit boxes, and the 2006 Securitas Depot robbery, the UK's largest cash heist, in which £53 million was stolen from the Securitas Cash Management Depot in Tonbridge, England. The largest bank heist in history was perpetrated by Saddam Hussein in 2003, on the day before the U.S. started bombing Iraq. He sent his son Qusay to the Central Bank of Iraq with a handwritten note ordering the withdrawal of nearly $1 billion in cash. $650 million of the cash was found in one of Saddam's palaces, but the remaining $350 million remains missing. Banks have installed alarm systems and cameras to prevent robberies, as well as reinforced blast-proof vaults. Die packs and tracking devices are employed to recover stolen money. As vaults have become heavily reinforced to the point where any possibility of blasting in could result in the entire building collapsing, robbers turn to kidnapping the bank manager. But with time-release locks, the manager is often unable to open the vault. While bank robberies continue to happen quite often, modern forensic science makes it likely the robber will eventually be caught. Bank robbery continues to be a popular subject for film. 1967's Bonnie and Clyde is regarded as a classic, while 1975's Dog Day Afternoon was based on an actual 1972 bank robbery. Point Break, Heat, and The Town have also been popular bank heist movies.
I just saw a really cool bank heist movie that I'd never seen before or even heard much about. I think it's called Dollars, with Warren Beatty and Goldie Hawn.
Oh, really? Wow. I hadn't heard of that one.
I saw it on something, I forget, but it very, 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 very good, cool. I like a good heist movie.
I love a good heist movie, yeah.
The 70s and the 90s were a particularly good time for them.
Yeah.
Do you want to take us into cast highlights?
Sure. Leslie Phillips was ankle aficionado Godfrey Teal. He got his start in the 50s and became known for his upper-class womanizer roles in the Carry On films and the Doctors in Love series. He was best known for his ding-dong and hello catchphrases. He played the voice of the Sorting Hat in 3 Harry Potter films, none of which said ding-dong that I recall. I do think that one of them said hello, though.
I saw a clip of one of these, and he just is like, the woman is very pretty, and he just goes, ding-dong.
He was nominated for an Olivier Award in the 70s and received a BAFTA nomination for the 2006 film Venus. He also had quite the love life, being married 3 times before his death in 2022. Barbara Durkin played gunmoll Linda Terrell. She made her first big on-screen appearance in the film Wish You Were Here and appeared on the shows I'm Alan Partridge, Roger Roger, and My Parents Were Aliens. Her final on-screen role was in 2014's The Incredible Adventures of Professor Brainstem. Looks like she may have retired, though. Dinah Stabb played teetotaler Tessa Hawksley. She's appeared in The Whistleblower, The Piglet Files, Medics, and Get Him to the Greek. She played a character named Barbara Walters in the miniseries In the Name of Love, but not that Barbara Walters. David Mallinson was secretive Alan Pinkney. He appeared regularly in Peak Practice, This Life, and Life Force. He also once played the dad in a Monopoly ad in the UK. Andrew Lancel played crooked DC Simon Backley. Oddly enough, one of his biggest roles was as a DI on The Bill. He also has appeared in Coronation Street and Unforgotten. He is a singer as well and has a one-man show he performed at the Royal Albert Hall. Nigel Lindsay played Crooked DS James Noland. Lindsay appeared in Four Lions, Mobland, The Tunnel, Innocent, and The Last Kingdom. He also had a lengthy stage career and played Shrek on the West End and earned an Olivier nomination for it. Sheila Reid played landlord Mrs. Metcalf. She was one of the original actors in the National Theatre when Larry Olivier founded it. She appeared in Olivier's film version of Othello, as well as Brazil, The Winter Guest, and Benidorm. Wikipedia says that she also performed with such luminaries as Ingmar Bergman and Elliot Gould.
I just kind of love that they such luminaries as Ingmar Bergman, Laurence Olivier, and Elliot Gould.
Hey, Elliot Gould was in one of the greatest films of all time, MASH.
I mean, Elliot Gould's been in a number of great films. And he was a huge draw. Yeah. He was a huge he was like a top box office star in the early 70s. And then his career sort of petered out. But I just love that. Like, putting him, no matter what, putting him in the, like, with Ingmar Bergman and Laurence Olivier is funny. Yeah.
Anna Northam played our victim, Ruth Fairfax. She only had 2 other roles in The Murder of Stephen Lawrence and Bring Me the Head of Mavis Davis. Looks like she spends a lot of her time teaching and coaching acting nowadays. Jean Chalice was Blink and You'll Miss Her, Mrs. Bainbridge. She's appeared in Dear John, Only Fools and Horses, Doctor Who, and Deuce Bigalow, European Gigolo. She played Mum Matheson in the cult camp classic TV show She-Wolf of London. Colin Higgins played bank employee Mr. Miller. Ironically, his first credited on-screen appearance was in 1972's The Heist. He appeared in The Naked Civil Servant, Brideshead Revisited, and Sweetie Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, as elixir-sniffing customer.
We had a few return visitors this week. Matthew Marsh was On the Edge, Tony Carter. We talked about him in They Seek Him Here. He's also appeared in Smilla's Sense of Snow, MI5, The Thick of It, and the movie Tetris. His brother Joe is a founding member of the UK synth band, The Beloved. Clive Marison played alcoholic bank manager Colin Hawksley. He is also in Habeas Corpus. Marison was a member of the National Theatre and the RSC and played Sherlock Holmes in several long-running BBC radio series. Now, he appeared in The History Boys on stage and screen, as well as Heavenly Creatures and Doctor Who. Denise Black was two-timing Ann Carter. We will talk about her again whenever we are forced to do The Night of the Stag.
Oh, dear.
She appeared on Coronation Street, Queer as Folk, Emmerdale Farm, and Doc Martin. Now, she formed a jazz singing combo with Josie Lawrence, who is a Whose Line Is It Anyways person, which we will talk about in a moment, and Kate McKenzie, and they called the group Denise Black and the Cray Sisters. They had a very much like a Andrew's sister kind of vocalization. You can find them on all the streaming platforms, and they might be best known for their songs I Want to Be an American and Class War. And they're very jazzy. I listened to them a little bit.
I love Josie Lawrence, and I can't wait to talk about her when we do her episode. But I really want to look out this combo.
Eamon Johegan played Out of Luck handyman Mike Weatherby. We saw him previously in Market for Murder. He's a character actor who also appeared in V for Vendetta, The Bill, Casualty, and A Touch of Frost. We mentioned the last time we talked about him that his first film was the Shirley MacLaine feature Madame Suzatka, where his role was specialist roller skater. But digging a little deeper into him, we didn't mention that he probably got that role because he was very good on skates when he was a part of Andrew Lloyd Webber's very bizarre Starlight Express.
Starlight Express. It's a bit of a joke. I've never seen it. I can't even tell you a song from it. Yeah.
Hilary Crane was bank employee Mrs. Partridge. She's also in Death of a Hollow Man. She's appeared in the soap opera El Dorado, Outside Edge, Grange Hill, and Tucker's Luck. She passed away in 2009. And Michael Tuchek was bag thief Jason Hers. We will see him again in Garden of Death. And he's appeared in Burnside and Family Business. Which means our village star this week was John Sessions, who was the lecherous art teacher Barrett Philby. Sessions is best known as a comedian who was one of the regulars on the original UK Whose Line Is It Anyways? He appeared in the, oddly enough, I looked this up. He appeared in the first 2 seasons and never again, but I so strongly identify him with that show.
Yeah.
He also starred in the mockumentary sitcom Stella Street. He studied at RADA and was a classmate of this little-known actor. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, Eileen. His name's Kenneth Branagh.
Never heard of him. Well,
the pair became good friends, and Sessions has appeared in a number of Branagh's productions and films. He was a part of the 80s comedy scene in the UK and often performed with the likes of French and Saunders. And he graduated to several one-man shows, a bunch of which would involve improvising based on a life story of an audience member. Later in life, he became a respected character actor who appeared in everything from Mr. Holmes and the Iron Lady to Skins and Doctor Who. He passed away in 2020. Now, I think I've mentioned in the past on the show that I grew up watching Whose Line Is It Anyway? It inspired a lifelong love of improv. I loved watching John Sessions. I thought he was so smart and so erudite that he would be, he had to tell a story in the style of William Faulkner that I thought was just he was absolutely brilliant at it.
Yeah.
And it was nice to see him in this episode.
Yeah. I thought this was a nicely cast episode, and there were some real standouts in it.
He didn't have much to do in it, but it was nice to see him in this episode.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here, and we'll be back with the second half of Painted in Blood.
Can I help you, sir?
I hope so. For your sake.
And we're back. Let's talk about the second half of Painted in Blood.
To tell you the truth, I'm fatally drawn to the dark side, where women are concerned. Perhaps you join me in a glass of sherry in the Cock and Rabbit.
Will you please just go away?
No, I know you don't really mean that.
Now, before Tony can attack, Barnaby hears a siren and moves on. Linda is not happy Tony almost killed a police officer, but Tony is basically about to lose it. Barnaby runs back to the village and finds the NIS arresting Weatherby, even though Joyce can confirm his alibi. But they ignored her, and when Barnaby tries to show the drawing to Troy, they find that it has gone missing. Joyce says the only people she told about the drawing were the fellow members of the Watercolor Society, so one of them must have taken it. Anne gets Tony to reveal that he's found missing money. We still don't know what that's about, but she gets very excited and goes and tells Philby as they are planning to steal the money from Tony. Now, at headquarters, Barnaby learns that Angela Browning was at D.C. working under the NIS and was clearly Ruth Fairfax, a fact the NIS has kept from Troy. He also learns that the scooter bandits were in an accident, and one of them is in the hospital. He gets the bandit to give up the location of the bag, which he finds hidden in some weeds on the roadside. Inside, he discovers the strong room receipt and Tony's passport photos. Meanwhile, the NIS detectives are railroading Weatherby, interrogating him without his lawyer, and stopping Troy when he asks him some questions. This causes them to kick Troy off the case. Barnaby goes and talks to Colin Hawksley at the bank, who is a little bitter that the branch is closing and being turned into a wine bar, most likely because he's a vodka man. He says that they have been trying to reach the owner of the item in question so he can come and get it, but has had no response. He shows Barnaby the strong room and this very large item that's covered in a tarp. Barnaby gives the bag back to Linda and then asks her about the photos, but she claims to have never seen them before. He won't give her the paperwork either, saying her husband needs to come and get it. Unfortunately, Teal saw Barnaby find the bag, and he tells everybody about it at the pub when he's drunk, and he is, of course, overheard by the NIS detectives. Troy goes to Barnaby and tells him about the fix against Weatherby. Barnaby tells him he thinks this is all about the Rugby Hitch robbery, where thieves netted £20 million. Two of the thieves were Tony and Linda's husband. Now, Tony testified against the rest of the thieves and got witness protection. Most of the money was found, but £5 million was never recovered. Barnaby thinks that money is in the strong room. He also realizes that the brush found on Browning's body is not one of hers, and that must mean it belongs to her killer. Joyce thinks the brush could belong to Pinckney, since he was close by Browning when they were both painting. The next day, Barnaby and Troy find Browning's paintbrushes in the evidence room, and sure enough, the one found under her body is different from all the rest. Troy mentions he never even met Gudgeon because that guy is always busy, which causes a Barnaby brain fart. Troy finds the NIS detectives in Barnaby's office. They demand the document from Linda's bag as a part of an NIS investigation. So Barnaby comes in and says, sure, take it, which makes them all super cocky. But when they leave, he tells Troy he thinks the NIS wants this investigation in shambles for one reason. They want that missing money for themselves. He sends Troy to find out if Pinckney has the same brushes as they found, and he does. Well, after sitting in the strong room with his vodka, Hawksley decides to open that big old item, which turns out to be a huge dresser cabinet. Inside, he finds rows and rows of money, the missing £5 million. He starts grabbing it and shoving it into his pockets, but then has to start putting it all back when Barnaby shows up. Meanwhile, Tony sneaks out and meets up with Linda, and when Anne notices he's gone, she drives off to catch him. Tony goes into the bank with a gun and forces everyone into the strong room. He makes them all start putting the money into some trash bags, but then Troy arrives at the bank, sees Tony holding everyone, pulls the fire alarm, so when Tony investigates, Troy attacks, and with Barnaby's help, they manage to take the gun away and arrest Tony. Anne arrives just in time to go off with her husband to jail, while Linda, who is waiting outside, drives away. After the police drive off, the NIS show up in a van. They gain access to the strong room and the big dresser and are very excited to find all that moolah. But then Barnaby and Troy show up and tell them that because of the sensitive nature of this money, they really need Gudgeon to show up and sign off, and they can't really let them have the money unless that happens. And for good measure, Hawksley locks them in to make sure that Gudgeon shows up. A little while later, the door opens and in walks Pinckney, who is actually Gudgeon. He tries to intimidate Barnaby, but Barnaby pulls out the paintbrush from behind Gudgeon's ear, which matches the one found on Browning. Barnaby reveals that Gudgeon is the killer. He and the NIS detectives had been planning to use Tony to locate and then steal the money. But Browning somehow got wind of it. Since she wasn't a bent copper, she wouldn't take part, so Gudgeon killed her. But he did not tell the other detectives, who were not aware, and when they find out that he killed a fellow cop, they give him up. Barnaby tells Troy that he knew that Gudgeon had to be using someone in the Art Society, and since he wouldn't use anyone who wasn't police, it stood to reason that he was in the society under a false name. Now, after everyone goes off, Philby meets up with Hawksley in the strong room, and they start having a drink. Both commiserate their losses until Philby realizes the dresser is a very, very, very valuable antique, and the two are now very, very, very happy. Our killer this week is Gudgeon, who is a corrupt cop working for the National Intelligence Squad. I looked this up a little bit. I think that what they're referring to is something called the National and Criminal Intelligence Service, which around the time this was filmed was specializing in organized crimes and crimes involving illicit drugs, football and financial issues, as well as pedophilic crimes. It was designed specifically to act against crime classified as both organized in performance and of a serious nature. So relevant groups were to include necessarily at least 3 people engaging in an ongoing criminal activity for prolonged periods, very much like a career criminal, who are motivated in acting to gain in power and for the accumulation of profit.
Yeah. I can see, by the end why they didn't want to actually use the actual acronym for the group because, it does not come across well.
No. They're basically it's a major crimes unit, and which I guess does mean they would technically outrank a police detective out in the sticks, which is why Barnaby is worried about getting this right for once. Because they could be in serious trouble if they interfere with an NCIS. Maybe they also couldn't use it because it's NCIS.
Maybe.
But they couldn't interview with an NIS investigation.
Yeah. It's like if there's a federal crime and the FBI comes in, they take over jurisdiction over local cops. Yeah.
Yeah. So we get next to no time with either Pinckney or Gudgeon. We get like 1 or 2 scenes of Pinckney, who I guess is playing it so stupid he doesn't really understand how to draw things with a pencil. And then Gudgeon gets like 2 lines.
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed with that reveal because of that. He wasn't even, it was like he wasn't, I can't even call him a character. Like there is no character with either Pinkney or Gudgeon of any kind. And so it made sense logically, but it was such a disappointing reveal.
It would have made sense if there had been more interaction between Pinkney and Joyce, where she is kind of, if she had, she talks about, she's looking at him and, when she can lean back and she can see. But if she had had some more interaction and made him more of a character, it would have helped a lot more. Because you just did that one scene with Troy and that's kind of the only time the police are involved with him at all.
I mean, it's just like the only people that have less to do is that married couple in the Watercolor Society.
Yeah.
It just struck me as it's not lazy. It just struck me as like, you don't even make him a credible anything. Like he's not even a character, right? Like the people that work in the bank had more lines.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, well, it's the reveal of this guy who, oh yeah, he was in this episode. I wish they'd given us a little more of that. We could actually have been interested in who this person was, so that when we find out he's been lying to us and he's actually the sinister murderer, it has an impact of any kind.
Yeah.
I also thought it was ridiculous that like he just forgot that he had a paintbrush stuck behind his ear. Like it's not a cigarette, right? It's not your glasses. It is a paintbrush. It's going to be like right there in his field of vision anyway. Or is it wet with paint? In which case he's got like wet paint smears on the side of his head. And then Barnaby pulls it off his head like he's a magician taking a coin from behind a little kid's ear.
Yeah.
And then you had Nolan and Backley, who, compared to Barnaby and Troy, are, fashionably dressed. They're coming off like they're Law and Order or CSI style detectives.
Yeah.
In a small town, which I thought was like, wow, that's a lot.
And yet neither one of them are nearly as nicely dressed as Jamie Winter would become.
Yes, that is true. Well, Jamie Winter has no kids. So he has a lot, apparently, no kids. He's not dating anybody. So he has a lot of disposable income for the gym, for nice clothes, and all those comic books.
and a really good cosplay costume.
Yeah. I did think it was a little dumb that Nolan and Backley, who are supposed, like, if you're going to try to make this look like a police thing, you don't just put the money in duffel bags. That just would give it away irregardless. Like Barnaby was like, oh, you're using duffel bags?
Yeah, they should have had something a little more official, like, oh, we have to take some pictures, even though it's all just for play, Though I guess maybe they didn't expect Barnaby to be there, so they didn't really think that they had to play it up that much.
I do think it was interesting. This is one of the rare circumstances where there is more talk about, we've seen talk about police officers bending or breaking the law. We did that one recently with the Tom Conti episode, but Barnaby is not anywhere near as deferential to these criminals.
Yeah, and it's also one of the few times until we get a little bit later on where you see Barnaby answering to a superior. And quite frankly, yes, he, as we'll discuss a little bit later, yeah, he really should have recused himself because his wife was a major witness, Yeah.
Barnaby is a do as I say, not as a do as I do guy. So I guess the scheme, they don't really, the big kind of the big sort of hole in the story is they don't quite explain why all of a sudden they think Tony has access to this money or is going to have. I'm assuming that they had been watching Linda
Mm-hmm.
And maybe she had spilled somewhere that she had found this receipt or was spending time with Tony. But it is a bit of a mystery why all of a sudden, like Ruth Fairfax, like months earlier, or like why Ruth Fairfax was there.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming Fairfax would have noticed that Gudgeon was even there, and that's what probably like, oh, why are you here? But they don't really lay it out as clearly as I feel like they could have.
Yeah. Yeah, they could have been a little clearer on some of the timeline of because a great heist is all about a very tight timeline,
Mm-hmm.
and they needed to kind of explain that because in many ways this follows structurally a heist film, and I did like that, but they needed to be a little clearer on some things with it.
Why are they there? Like
Mhm.
what was the instigating incident? And again, this is one of those ones where it's weird for like a episode that is long. Like
Mhm.
time wise, it is a long episode. This is almost 2 hours long.
Mhm.
But they don't have that information. They don't have a lot with Gudgeon or Pickney
Mhm.
at all. And instead, we've got like lots of Tony and Linda,
Mhm.
Anne and Barrett, which is went nowhere
Mhm.
other than a very awkward makeout scene.
Mhm.
It just struck me as that they were filling in with a lot of extraneous stuff that could have been trimmed down. Like I don't even mind like if it's an hour and 43 that moves briskly,
Mhm.
but it moves slowly.
Yeah.
And for a lot of like character bits and stuff like that, and putting a lot of these obstacles in Barnaby's way that don't seem to stop him at all.
Mhm.
Because I feel like Gudgeon would have noticed Barnaby wandering around the crime scene and would have, hey, why is this guy still in my hair? Calling the higher ups to get Barnaby off more.
Yeah.
I just wanted a little less of this, the fluff, and more of like just give us like a 2-minute summary of how this whole heist was ideally how it started and how it was supposed to work.
Yeah.
Then you have Tony, who I guess is the great lover. Sorry, Godfrey Teal. Not a great husband or a great boyfriend.
No, kind of not good on any kind of relationship level.
He is perpetually on edge in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
If boiling point's a 10, he seems to be on a constant 9.
Yeah.
Do you think the closing of the shades, the constant closing of the shades, was that to keep the police from watching him, or was that a signal to Linda?
I think it was the signal to Linda from what I gathered from it. And I think that's what Ruth or Angela undercover as Ruth was watching for, was to get the okay, so he would close the shades and then a few minutes later he would like leave and go away, and maybe they had somebody else watching Linda and seeing when she would go out and matching that up. I would have liked a little bit more on that, how they were working that out.
Weatherby was in that window just for a long time of just painting one window.
That was a very long paint job. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you notice how ridiculous those signatures on the strong room receipt were?
Yeah.
It just looked like a squiggle.
There are people who do have ridiculous signatures, Eric. We know some.
Who, you?
No, well,
Me?
mine's basically a scrawl, but yeah.
I mean, everyone's signature at this point is a scrawl because you only really have to do them on those electronic sign things anymore.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
No one ever gets. It's like, I want to get my Wheaties and go. I also thought the character of Linda was very interesting, especially since I think she's the first time anyone in Midsomer Murders has worn leather pants.
Yeah, she is obviously set out from the very beginning, from the way she's dressed to the dyed blonde hair, the red lipstick, to the little smirk she has on. She is obviously up to no good. You know that from the very beginning.
She also wears heels in the woods.
In the woods, yes. She's not exactly dressed for the either the weather or the environment.
Yeah, but I thought there was an interesting scene after Tony attempts to beat Barnaby to death. which I thought was, by the way, that whole sequence where we actually see a guy getting ready to commit murder.
Yeah.
Also very rare on Midsomer.
Yeah.
But she's not happy about that. And then I think like the next scene we see her in, she's sort of out in the woods. She's kind of shivering and she's like, oh, she's out. She's alone and out in the cold.
Mm-hmm.
I thought was an interesting, super obvious metaphor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Compare Tony and Anne to the Hawksleys.
Yeah. Another really strong relationship.
I mean, she is pretty blatantly open about Colin's lack of a sex drive.
Yeah.
Within the first 5 minutes of meeting Joyce.
Yeah. Yeah. That's when you get the whole TMI thing going on.
Yeah. She also talks to Joyce about his drinking, which gets Joyce starting to freak out a little bit about Tom's drinking, which has some great comedic moments.
The way he downs that first glass and just immediately pours a second one.
Are you sure you want another drink?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I was like interested, like Colin, it was like, was he always an alcoholic or was this over the bank closing? You know, did it, or did that accelerate things?
Yeah. Yeah. It was probably always there and just got accelerated. Was kind of my take on it, but, you know, it's never really fleshed out. Yeah.
I mean, he's down drinking in his man cave in the strong room, telling them he's going to go work in this. What do they think he's doing down there? I'm counting items.
Yeah.
Yep. Still have 12.
Well, apparently not a whole lot is going on in that bank anyway, so I doubt that they missed him much.
He has a desk down there where he keeps a bottle of vodka.
Mm-hmm.
Which I was like, you keep vodka chilled, man. I don't care how cool the strong room is. That's warm vodka.
Yeah. There's a difference between cellar cool and chilled.
Yeah. He also left a glass that had vodka in it inside the drawer, which means he put it in there and then shut. So which means he spilled vodka all over that drawer.
He probably didn't care too much.
But I loved it when his reaction when he's just like, I need to see what's in this thing.
Yeah.
What's in here? And all that money, all those little pictures of the Queen.
That's a great shot of him having that reaction as he opens it. Just beautifully shot, you know, and great acting. Not a word spoken, but it's just and he does what we would all do. Starts putting that money in his pockets. So nobody's gonna miss a little bit of this,
or a lot of it. I mean,
or a lot of it.
It is. I guess it's 5 million pounds in ones. We also spent a little time with Godfrey Teal, a former military major. He knows Barnaby. He knows him from the golf, I guess from the club, as well as the pub.
Yeah.
His obsession with Linda and her ankles.
Oh yeah,
is a running joke in this whole show. He constantly mentions her ankles. But he also is a bit of a creep. He hits on her, telling her that he's fatally drawn to the dark side where women are concerned.
Yeah.
And then refuses to take no for an answer, telling her, you don't really mean that.
Yeah, that just makes him a typical guy.
Yeah.
Guys, take no for an answer, please.
And then, of course, Barrett Philby, as we were talking about, played by the great John Sessions, who I guess got into the Watercolor Society to hit on every single woman.
Yeah. Yeah, except for the one that was married there with her husband.
Oh, look, we didn't spend any time with that couple. For all we know, he's hit on her too.
And maybe her husband.
He is having an affair with Anne, who, I mean, can't really blame her for wanting to be away from Tony.
Yeah. I mean, definitely the better of the two.
But at the end, he is left alone with a very expensive piece of furniture. And then we see him. He is already putting the moves on Tessa.
Oh, yeah. And she seems quite happy about that. Apparently, she's had sex, finally.
Yes. I mean, he's probably a very passionate lover.
Yeah.
He knows how to use his brush, if you know what I mean. If any children are listening to this, ask your parents.
Don't ask your parents. Why
would any children be listening to this? we just gonna just touch on the corner very quickly that because it's a one murder episode and they take the body away from him pretty quickly, we don't get a lot of Mr. Bullard.
Nope.
But we do get the wig removal scene.
Yes. A very good scene for him.
Yes. That was a very funny, weird. This episode had a lot of weird gallows humor.
Mm-hmm.
Detective work in this episode. We have Operation Pond Life, which is dealing with the bag snatching that's going on in Midsomer. Although it just seems like a way of Barnaby dumping work onto Troy.
Yeah. Well, it was a bit of a crime wave with these little guys out there stealing motor scooters and snatching bags. Something that most police departments wouldn't even bother investigating.
And Troy is of that mindset. Is like he does believe that this is beneath him, and he's right because Barnaby does not want to be doing this when he is forced to do it.
Yep.
He only does it when he senses it's an opportunity to get back in and do this murder mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is that lovely bit of irony when, I do love it in this episode and the show in general that we've talked about the Barnabys throw their weight around a lot.
Yeah.
So when it kind of gets bounced back on them, you love the comeuppance just a tiny bit.
Yeah. But Barnaby rolls with it.
He has to.
Yeah.
But I did love when Troy dumped it back onto Barnaby and he walks out of the room and just goes, yes.
And yet he's treated like more of a lackey than he ever is with Barnaby.
So this hinges on Barnaby's taken off the case. Basically for a 100% valid reason.
Yeah.
His wife found the body.
Mm-hmm.
This should have been a reason to take him out of a number of cases. His wife is constantly being there when they're like involved in murder scenarios.
Yeah.
He is. It's a constant conflict of interest. Even Troy goes, that their commanding officer has a point.
Yeah, I mean, it's early, and as early as I think like the third episode in the first season, she's found a body.
This is apparently the first time that Joyce has found a body on her own.
Yeah.
In this show. So, we do get a little bit of a shock from her. She's like, "Oh."
Yeah.
And I love that bit where Barnaby is not investigating the murder right off the bat. He's comforting his wife.
Yeah. There is some really nice work between John Nettles and Jane Wymark in their scenes. There's the humor there, but there's also some nice tenderness between them. And for once, he doesn't abandon her during a meal. They actually have that dinner together and he talks to her about how things are going. He is a bit, probing, professionally on there, but, it's in a kind of gentle way.
But then he's having dinner with a witness, not his wife.
Yeah.
And he has no case to be called out on, which is probably like, okay, I guess I'm going to have to talk to you now. All right. What do husbands and wives talk about? Their day? Great. I got kicked out of a case because of you.
But when he's comforting her in the village green after finding the body, it's very sweet. Yeah.
Barnaby does not like it when Troy calls a gudgeon boss.
Oh, no, he does not.
No. But of course, Troy is a guy with ethics. So when he sees them behaving unethically, he calls them out. And he's told these, and he admits he's probably not cut out for NIS. Now, Troy will leave at the end of the season. This is the last season of Troy.
Yeah, he does. He does one episode at the beginning of the next season. Yeah.
Right, but we're rapidly approaching the point where Troy is going to be leave the show.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that the character of Troy has grown? Like they've cut out the constant homophobia.
Yeah.
But do you feel that Troy has grown as a detective at this point, where he would be able to solve cases on his own?
Well, considering that only 2 episodes earlier, which is an episode we haven't covered yet, A Talent for Life, he bases pretty much his entire gut instinct on homophobia. It's still there, but he has matured as a detective, if not completely as a human yet.
That's the problem with always like the writing of these characters as sidekicks, is that they are always going to be a little dumber. than main guy.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you have to promote them, then they're still dum-dums.
Yeah.
And Troy is, I feel, is improved as a detective. Like, they have shown that Troy has improved as a detective as a character in these seasons. Just didn't seem to me as just like, oh, I don't think he's ready to run. Like, I don't think he's ready for that next stage where,
Yeah.
Again, he
does have some very good questions during the interrogation of Weatherby, actually getting to the truth and not trying to set the guy up, which is, nice when you're actually interrogating
and
someone.
he's smart enough to drop those brushes in the trash can.
Yeah, very so. And when he sees the conundrum that, his boss is in the vault, he's smart enough to figure out a way to easily get out of it, which is to do something very simple, pull a fire alarm. Nothing, but it's quick thinking there. So he has improved.
Did Barnaby's hair look dyed in this?
I don't think so. I think it's just we've been doing so many later ones that,
It seemed.
I mean, he's 59 when this was filmed.
But it's dark. Like, there is no gray hair. It seems noticeably darker, even than some of the stuff from like Badger's Drift. So it just jumped out at me. I was like, it looked like he had dyed his hair like recently.
Yeah.
Home life. We talked a little bit about Joyce and Tom having to spend dinner together. This was also Joyce just joined the society. Why was she so nervous?
I know.
For a watercolor society.
I know. She seems to take all this stuff very seriously.
Yeah. There's a big to-do about her painting, which about Tom and Troy seem to think it's garbage. And then you actually see it. Like, you can see it like a little bit when she's holding it. It's like, it doesn't look that bad. And also, I don't know why anyone would like paint clouds green.
Yeah. Why would you mistake clouds for trees? Yeah.
It clearly looked like trees.
Yeah.
But it didn't seem as bad as they were talking about.
Yeah. No, when you see it up, during the auction, it's like, oh, that's not. I mean, it's not a great painting by any means.
No.
But it's a nice amateur watercolor.
I can see why Teal wanted it super badly.
Yeah.
Do you think Joyce has great ankles?
I don't see many of her ankles too often.
No, but maybe Teal has, because he's willing to pay £100.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a lot for some reason. And then you have Barnaby is forced to have to bid £150 to keep his wife's art away from the weirdo.
Yeah.
It was nice to see Joyce get like another activity. I felt like she was like, oh, she found the body. And then she kind of disappears for large portions of the episode, right? Like, she's integral, and then she's like, I feel like her discovery of the body should have been more integral to the solving of the case. Like, Joyce saw something.
Well, and she does bring it up, and she obviously can exonerate Weatherby because he spent so long painting that one window, and she, was watching him the entire time, drawing him and everything. The thing is in a way, the whole murder kind of goes underground because Tom Barnaby is not officially investigating it. So yeah.
I mean, she does provide integral, like the clearing, like the Weatherby is cleared up based on like cleared for the audience, not for the investigation. And she does name Pinckney as the guy with the weird brushes.
Yeah.
So she is integral, but I just felt like if you're going to make a big deal that this is the first time she's found a body, it should really be something she saw should be part of the solution.
Yeah.
This feels to me that would make it a perfect circle.
Yeah. I mean, she does say that she couldn't see Pinckney the entire time unless she, that she was painting, and that he was close to Ruth. So she does provide that information.
Yeah, but she couldn't see anybody at that, as well. Like, judging from the field of view that we see of her, she couldn't see anybody else. So that really is it's an important non-clue.
Yeah.
The solution is fine. I just would have loved like a little more perfect perfect circle. If you're going to make it this is a big thing, make it a big thing.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings us to our final thoughts. Yeah. What did you think of Painted in Blood?
Yeah, I I do like this episode. I was surprised, actually, it gets as high a rating as it does on IMDb. It's one of the top-rated episodes. It's got an 8.1. I wouldn't give it that high. I do like it as... I like that there's... it kind of mixes things up with the whole, only one murder. The focus gets taken away from the murderer and yet gets brought back to it. I like the kind of that. I like that structurally it does kind of have a heist structure to it. When we end with them in the bank and everything. I wish they had fleshed out some things a bit more. I wish we'd gotten more time with Pinckney, as we've said, so that it's not just a... I think I kind of remember that guy. Wasn't he the one who asked him about the pencil? So there was more of a thing with it, and just a little bit more of that care taken to the writing of it.
I agree. That number is way too high. I think this is a good episode. Mm-hmm. I think it's long. It's too long. I am also of the great belief that most films nowadays are way too long.
Yeah.
Like most episodes of TV, if they're branching out over like 50 minutes, you're too long. I just feel like it was getting to the halfway point, or where I thought the halfway point was, and I was like, oh, this has only been half an hour? Mm-hmm. Whoa. It really picks up in the last half hour. Yeah. But that means there's an hour and 15 minutes ahead of it that's really slow for one murder. Mm-hmm. I think it drags in places. Overall, I like it. Mm-hmm. It needed less of some stuff and it needed more of other stuff. Yeah. It needed more heist or heist background, needed more Pinckney, needed less Philby. Mm-hmm. As much as I love John Sessions, it needed less of him. Mm-hmm. It's not, he's a non-entity, and he doesn't affect the outcome. He doesn't affect anything. You never take him. He's never presented as a suspect. In fact, there's no real suspect except for Weatherby, who's we know because of Joyce is not a true suspect. So for the murder, there's no true suspects. We needed less Tony and Linda running off to meet each other. Mm-hmm. Like you could have cut one of those. Yeah. Or combined them. It just, so there was a lot of extraneous stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure why. An hour and 43 minutes is a long, your average Midsomer comes in to be 140, 135. Mm-hmm. Nowadays it's 129, 120. It's so 15 minutes is a lot, right? That's a lot of time, and they don't do anything with it or anything special. Yeah. But the episode itself is entertaining. The Barnaby having to solve the case with they could have used that time to create a little more obstacles for Barnaby trying to solve this case, because again, he is noticeably sticking his nose into this stuff that Gudgeon would have seen. Yeah. So it's call him out on it, get him in trouble. I just wanted a little more obstacles. I wanted a little more drama. I wanted a little more mystery. Yeah. And what we got was goofy character stuff or extraneous character stuff that wasn't in service of anything. I know. I do agree with that. Yeah. I thought we would be very different on this, but I think we actually kind of agree more than I thought we would, which is that it's good. It's entertaining. It could have been a lot better. Well, that's everything we wanted to talk about. If you had anything you wanted to discuss about Painted in Blood or Midsomer Murders, feel free to email us at welcometomidsomer@gmail.com. If you want us to use the email in the show, just say so in that email. We're also Welcome to Midsomer on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, and YouTube, where we have been uploading our old episodes. Kindly follow us in all these places. If you've liked what you've heard, please consider subscribing to us or rating and reviewing us on iTunes or Spotify. It helps people find us. Tell all your friends about us. We're going to be back soon, and we hope you will join us again for another episode. As we take the road out of Midsomer, we want to thank you for listening and remind you that in Midsomer, painting clouds that look like trees can be murder. And usually is on the eyes. Welcome to Midsomer is produced by Eric Buscher and Eileen Becker. All clips in this podcast are used in compliance with the U.S. Copyrights Act fair use exception for criticism and commentary. Our logo and podcast art were designed by Smeedrai. Our theme music is by the infamous Space. And
and Sweeney Todd, the demon blobber, and Sweeney Todd.
The demon blobber?
Shut up.